Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Power Vacuum. I'm your host, Belmont, and today I'm going to be exposing the lies of Will Shen. We've got this right here from Games Radar. Former Starfield lead says people are fatigued with huge games, and I'm sorry because part of what happened is the success of games like Skyrim and Fallout 4. I don't know why you're including Fallout 4 in this. Well, yes, Fallout 4 is a pretty big game with the amount of content you have to do. If we're talking about sheer map size, it's nowhere near the size of Skyrim. Especially when you consider, Blackreach in Skyrim and the amount of dungeons and how large they are. But let's dive into this. Ex-Bethesda veteran and Starfield lead quest designer Will Shen reckons the volume of huge games is reaching a point where people are fatigued, and with that bigger is better design trend partly fueled by the likes of Bethesda's games. Yes and no. FromSoft games are very large, especially when you look at the fact that you can fast travel, but there's a lot of exploring to do and world not building, but exploring. It's exploring. I don't know why I was trying to say something else. From Software has a very in-depth world, and if you want to understand the world and the lore of those games, you got to explore. You got to find items. You got to read descriptions. They make big games too. So I would say it's partly Bethesda, partly FromSoft, and partly Nintendo's new approach to things. Speaking with Kiwi Talks in a recent interview, at first I thought that was someone's name. I was like, whoa, what a name. I'm guessing that's a company. Shin waded into the ongoing discussion over whether games have gotten too long. Former PlayStation boss Sean Layden notably said 100-hour games are a mismatch for today's reality, just last month. I'm sorry, Shin joked, acknowledging that he certainly wasn't known for short games during his time at Bethesda. In 2023, he left the studio to join other RPG veterans and make a new open-world game, which is also probably won't be very small. I did not want to click on that right away. I wanted to open that as a new window to look at in a minute. Not personally responsible, but part of what happened is the success of games like Skyrim and Fallout 4. These really big titles that you can play pretty much forever. Shin reasons. There are still a lot of people playing Skyrim even after all these years. Oh gee, I wonder if that's because you guys have released 8 versions of the game. The idea of these evergreen games that you can just sink thousands of hours into, that hit the industry. Before, it was MMOs for that. World of Warcraft, there are super fans who will never leave that game. 100%, I have a friend who is still playing World of Warcraft. He's been playing it since its drop. 22 years ago now? Holy crap. I had to think about that one. Hurt my brain a little. Just thinking that game's been going on that long. I think it was 2002, right? Maybe 2004, but I believe 2002 for World of Warcraft. Or 3. God, it's been so long. It's over 20 years at this point. The problem isn't just the size of these games, though. Shen points out that most games that are 10 plus hours long, most people don't finish. And I'd say 75% of your players only play through the first 5 to 10 hours. But also the market they're launching into. Now we're reaching a point where people are fatigued, or a large section, a growing section of the audience is becoming fatigued at investing 30 plus, 100 plus hours into a game. Because they already have that. They already have that games that they will continually come back to. And adding another one to the list is a tall order. It's always a tall order. Consequently, Shin says contrasting short games are having a bit of a moment, tipping his hat to the to the Game Awards GOTY winner Astrobot, and pointing to its own recent playthrough of bite-sized horror game Mouthwashing. His own recent. I'm having trouble reading this guy's words. Which clocks in around 2 or 3 hours. This is one of the nice contained experiences that I can then move on from. Shen says he and many more players can appreciate in today's behemoth-filled market, in part because you can have a fan community conversation about a game that's much shorter because the shortness allows everyone to engage fully with the entirety of their product. So I'm going to have to disagree with this. And I suppose I should jump into the community and see what they're saying about this. But there was a game that came out very HP Lovecraft inspired called The Moons of Madness. And I had been following it. I was very much anticipating the game. And when it came out, I bought it immediately. I played it. And I think it's only 4 or 5 hours in length. And I felt cheated. Because there's so much you can do with, especially like cosmic horror, when you're in space, that they fell short of, in my opinion, because they were trying to make a short-lived experience, a game that was quick, a game that you could run through multiple times, potentially. But for me, it felt rushed and boring. Well, not boring. It felt rushed and sudden. The ending just kind of happened. And I had no desire to play it again. I haven't played it again. I've never gone back to it. It didn't feel like it had any replayability. And that is an issue you run into when you make a game that's too short. Is that it, lacks replayability. Polishing his crystal ball, Shen doesn't expect it to get any easier for players to fit big new games into their lives, since the current titans will likely live on for a long time, potentially even decades. If companies would stop re-releasing and remastering every fucking game they have, every game they make, and they focused on putting out the next game, this would not be a problem. If Elder Scrolls 6 had already dropped, people wouldn't be playing Skyrim, they'd be playing Elder Scrolls 6. Just as you don't hear anybody ever talk about Daggerfall, you don't hear anybody talk about Morrowind, you don't hear anybody talk about Oblivion. In fact, the people that are talking about those games are trying to make not Skyfall. It was originally called, not Daggerfall. What was it? Skywind and Skyblivion, because they're making those games in the Skyrim style. And it's very likely those games will be done before Elder Scrolls 6 at this rate. We have so many games now in our libraries that we can return to forever, he says. Then there are the mammoth successes where if you're engaging with one game, you're usually focused on Madden or FIFA, Call of Duty, Fortnite, League of Legends, World of Warcraft, any one of those, Skyrim, he adds for good measure. That has happened, and I think it's going to be a long time before those games leave the market. Who knows? How long will Fortnite go on? It could be another 20 to 30 years. Maybe it's forever. Sports have gone on forever. Football, soccer, basketball. It's been a long time since someone introduced a new sport or new team sport that's had any huge mainstream cultural influence. It would be hard to put those into game mode. Like, there are new sports. Who's going to go play pickleball, the game? Who's going to play beer pong, the game? These are new sports that people play pretty heavily in the real world. I just don't see them transferring to games. I was shocked when Madden continued on. I thought once they canceled NCAA football, which they've now brought back, that football games were going to die, because that was the better of the football games when it came to like gameplay, enjoyment of the game. Anything pretty much after Madden, was it 25? I don't remember. 05? I don't know. It was the one where you went to first person quarterback mode and you had quarterback vision, and there were more cutscenes in the game than there was gameplay, at which point I was done with Madden entirely. I never really got into Madden that heavily, but I saw no reason to play it beyond the point where it's watching football, not playing football or playing the game. It's watching the game. I'm rambling. Where was I? Maybe forever, maybe our lifetime. 50 years from now, there'll still be Fortnite, and it still be the mammoth success that it's always been. Who knows? Shen additionally weighed in on Layden's perspective Specifically, namely the idea that as they've matured, many gamers have shifted from having no money but excess time to having enough money to buy games but no time to play them. Ah, yes, the problems with being an adult. You finally have the money to buy the games you've always wanted and always want to play, but not enough time to play them all. This balance differs between markets and audiences. Shen reasons, making it hard to speak holistically as games become more global, seemingly broadly agreeing with the sentiment that time is at a premium. He simply says, it's a lot. And there you have it. That's his thoughts. And, yeah, I kind of disagree with him. Because I want more large, expansive games. I wanted Starfield to be Fallout in space. And it wasn't. It fell short. Not so much because the game was so huge, but because the game's boring. And there's a lot of empty, dead space in which to do nothing. You travel to a planet, and there's 3 locations on the planet that you can visit. And then everything else is just dead space in between. Or uninteresting events or uninteresting animals. Or I think maybe I ran into bandits once every planet I went to, where there should be bandits everywhere. When there's a massive city on a planet, there should be tons of shit to do, not just run around the city center with a bunch of, NPCs that don't really interact with you in any way. It's ridiculous that they built this massive world and it's basically empty. There's just nothing to it. I'm pretty sure there's more to do in Skyrim and Fallout 4 than there is to do in Starfield. I don't care what the devs say. I went through on my 3rd playthrough, right? New Game Plus or whatever. I have over 100 hours, and I've had people tell me, oh, you must have liked the game. And the answer is no, I didn't really like it. On Fallout 3, I have over 500 hours. Fallout 4, I have around 400 hours. On Skyrim, I have well over 1,000 hours. When your game is good enough for me to put that much time into, which normally I expect Bethesda to be, it's a well-made game. Starfield, hitting 100 hours in a Bethesda game is nothing. It's nothing. It's like 100 hours in a Rockstar game. It's nothing. I only played Red Dead Redemption 2 twice through the story, and I still think I racked up about 250 hours on those 2 playthroughs. Well over 100 hours of gameplay. And I could go back to that game. It's not much of my aesthetic to play the Wild Wild West America or whatnot, or the more like the Taming of the West, because it's in a time period where the Wild Wild West is kind of petering down and it's becoming more, unification, more civilization is happening in the world around those characters. And that's kind of the driving point of the story too, is that they're from the old West and the new West is coming in and changing things. But yeah, I just think he's wrong. I think Will Shen's wrong about this. I think people do want big games, and I do think they're going to crave them, especially since this study came out. From Science Alert, open world games like Zelda can boost your mental health, study says. We're going to jump right into this. We're doing a double whammy article right here. Many modern video games fall into the open world category, giving players vast, detailed worlds to explore, and a new study that shows these expansive digital playgrounds have benefits for our mental health. Researchers from Imperial College London and the University of Graz in Austria asked more than 600 postgraduate students about their experience playing open world games and how these sessions left them feeling. They found these video games, including The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I feel like that's a plug, significantly boost cognitive escapism, taking breaks from thinking about real life, relaxation levels, and overall mental well-being. Open world refers to games that provide a large, freely explorable environment where the players can move and interact with the game world with minimal restrictions, writes the team in their published paper. They offer larger details worlds to explore. Specifically, the games may feature an expansive world filled with diverse landscapes, towns, and hidden secrets. It's evidence that these types of games could be an antidote to other digital activities we engage in, such as scrolling through social media, something that's been associated with the downturn in mental health. Absolutely. Absolutely, does social media destroy your mental health? By providing immersive environments that allow mental diversions, emotional relief, and meaning, these games can serve as valuable tools for enhancing psychological and emotional health, write the researchers. Based on a total of 32 interviews and 609 surveys, participants expressed feeling of increased inner peace, as well as being able to forget my daily worries and switch off from whatever else is happening. One participant described open world gaming as my form of meditation. There were mentions of calmness, relaxation, and satisfaction in the volunteer responses, as well as talks of relieving stress and soothing tension. Some players said they felt a sense of calling in the game and a growing as a person. It seems that both the autonomy given to the players in open-world games and the richness of the virtual worlds may contribute to improvement in mental health, something game developers could take on board. With advances in gaming technology and more ambitious goals of gaming studios, open-world games have grown in scale and complexity, in some cases giving players almost an entire second life in a fictional world. These games will usually have missions within them, but don't force players to follow them step by step. There's room for experimentation and exploration without the pressure and need to complete the task within a certain time. The study adds to what we already know about how video games can relieve stress and boost satisfaction when played in moderation. With more evidence from further research, we might one day see therapists and doctors recommending some time in the world of Zelda for their patients. Future research that uses psychological measures to examine the effects of open world games on mental well-being is richly deserving, write the researchers. The research has been published in the Journal of Medical Internet Research, which I have right here, and I will include a link in the description for anyone that wants to read the actual study themselves. It's a little long and kind of wordy. As you can see, it's very densely worded. It's not like a normal article where there's, triple spacing and whatnot. What did I just do? But there you have it. Pretty much a counter to the argument that, Mr. Will was making right here, or Mr. Shen. Mr. Will Shen. Is that people are tired of open world games. No, they're not really tired of open world games. That's just not true. It's just that you don't understand how to make them. You weren't there, as you admitted, for Skyrim or Fallout. You're the lead dev on Starfield, and your game failed because it was just boring and empty. It didn't have enough content. It boasted this massive thing. It's like No Man's Sky. When No Man's Sky came out, it boasted and boasted and boasted and fell short. And it got trashed and it turned people away. And some people will never come back to it. I didn't jump on the No Man's Sky bandwagon until I want to say 2020. During those times. And the game had largely had a renaissance by then. It's also seeing like a second renaissance right now. Because on sale on Steam, I think, and people are just buying into it, exploring it for the first time. They just put out another huge major update. They really came through in the end. And when you make a game that's that ambitious, you need to come through. Doesn't matter if it's preferably right away. You shouldn't have to, wait 2 or 3 years for a game to get good. It should be good when it comes out. But they released everything for free, all the updates for free, and that really saved them. If Starfield would, do that, no, they're not doing that though. Instead of fixing their game, they released an update or a DLC which you had to buy, which was short and didn't have enough information or enough content to it. Another issue that Starfield had. It's just he doesn't understand. He thinks it's fatigue. This is what we heard with Marvel when they started making shitty cookie cutter movies. Oh, it's superhero fatigue. It's superhero fatigue. It's superhero fatigue. And then Spider-Man No Way Home comes out and crushes it at the box office. right in the middle of the superhero fatigue speech from every Marvel movie, every Marvel director, and every Marvel actor. Oh, people are just fatigued. Oh, except for this superhero movie that's making like $1 billion. It's not fatigue of the genre. It's fatigue of bad writing. It's fatigue from cookie cutter experiences. And in the case of open world games, it's fatigue from games that boast massive worlds but then have nothing in them. Because that's what Starfield was. Massive with nothing. Right? You get a giant open world with 8 things to do. Okay, once I do those 8 things, I'm bored. I'm not going to just wander around your world unless there's stuff to explore, stuff to find. The first time I picked up Skyrim, it was so different from... Well, it's not so different. It felt so much different than Oblivion, with the way it flowed into the world, with the way it enticed you to explore. Oblivion never enticed me to explore. Morrowind kind of did, but there were limitations to Morrowind, and the game was, they were still in the fledgling state of making excellent open world games. It had its problems. Oblivion improved it a little bit, but couldn't really hold my interest for some reason that I can't quite explain. I think the Summering Isles DLC, I think that's what it was called. It's the one with Sheryl Gorath. I played more of the DLC than I did of the original game. I definitely have more hours in the DLC content than I do in the original game. I almost speedrun Oblivion when I played it. But then Skyrim, for some reason, it was just, I wanted to explore. I wanted to go to these different places. I don't know if it was because as a gamer I had moved on to that, or if just because the game was that enticing. Let's go to little column A, little column B. But people aren't tired of big games. People don't have fatigue from it. We just want interesting games and compelling games. Look at Zelda, Breath of the Wild. Look at Tears of the Kingdom. These games are selling great and people love playing them. So much so that they did an internet study and specifically cited Breath of the Wild. Like, here's a screenshot. Here's another one. Because these games are what people crave for escapism. It's what they crave to play. They want to play these games. There's a reason people are still playing World of Warcraft. There's a reason people are still playing Skyrim. And it's not just because they're evergreen games, as you said. It's because they're compelled to, because that's the escapism they have. And nobody yet, as of yet, has matched those games other than Nintendo, but not everybody plays Nintendo. Some people are beyond Nintendo. They want their consoles to be up to the snuff of a computer almost. Or they just don't play Nintendo because they're done with Nintendo. I'm pretty much done with Nintendo. I played a little bit of Tears of the Kingdom. I played a whole hell of a lot of Breath of the Wild. But Nintendo hasn't drawn me back yet. We'll see what happens next year because there's supposed to be some things going on. I think it's the 3rd time people have announced that they're remaking the Switch or making the Switch 2. That's one of my favorite things. Every year, the Switch 2's release date is next year. No. We'll know when they want to release it. But yeah, that's it. I'm getting real rambly on this, but my point is pretty much made for me, I believe, with this study. And again, I will put this study in the description so people can go read it for themselves if they want, because it's very interesting to show that this developer who made a horrible game thinks that people are tired of these big games, when the study and when actual scientific research shows they're not. They want more. They crave more. And if you deliver the right experience, people will enjoy it. That's all I have for this video. Belmont out.